From the Voice of Retail podcast, my name is Michael LeBlanc, and I am your host. This podcast is produced in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. Meet Amanda Amar, Senior Director of PR and Social Media with Aldo, as she takes us through some of its most successful influencer marketing campaigns ever and how this Canadian brand uses influencer marketing to meet customers with the content they want to see on social platforms and drive traffic and sales. In a wide-ranging conversation, we cover everything from optimal organizational structures to getting the best out of your social campaigns, choosing the best influencer strategy to meet your needs, and what to think about when your selected social media platform falls under public scrutiny. Amanda, welcome to the Voice of Retail podcast. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Well, it is my pleasure. Where am I finding you today? When I think of Aldo, I think of Montreal. Is that where you are?
Yes, I'm actually based in Montreal. This is where our head office is as well. Many people don't know Aldo is a Canadian company, so yeah. I'm chilling out in Montreal today.
Well, I don't know if you're chilling out. If it's anything like the temperature today here in Toronto, I think...
sweltering, in other words.
You're sweltering out, but you're chilling out in terms of the vibe. You got a really interesting background. You got a really interesting job, and of course, working for a really interesting retailer. So I'm really thrilled to have you on the mic. Let's talk about you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you do for a living.
For sure. Well, thank you so much. I'm actually Senior Director of Global Social Media and Public Relations at Aldo. I've been with the company now. It's coming up to 10 years in November, which is crazy.
Wow.
I've actually always worked in fashion since graduating with a degree in fashion marketing. And I joined Aldo Group in 2013 as part of their global division. So that's where we're working with franchise markets in over 100 countries. So I work directly with all of our franchise partners on all things digital marketing. And I can tell you, I learned a ton. Best practices around the globe are so different. And it was honestly, truly fascinating. After a few years, I had the opportunity to dive into the brand world and really Aldo's owned and operated PR and social media team, overseeing the strategy for North America as well as the rest of the globe. So it's been a trip, to say the least.
Well, let me ask you something about your role. So I know some part of the business is franchise. I used to be part of Pandora Jewellery, for example, and we had franchisees, and we had I did a not dissimilar role from you. I was running the marketing for the country, and we had different types of marketing. We had it for our franchisee partners, and then we did it for our owned and operated stores. Do you have purview over both, or do you provide assets for the franchisees to use, or talk a little bit about the mechanics of your job?
Of course. That's a great question. We're owned and operated in North America. So we're at the head office. We're setting out all of the strategies, content, etc. for our partners, but then we're really adapting it in market based on those best practices. So we really depend on our franchise partners to be like our eyes and ears on the ground. So it's a super collaborative effort. They're the ones that are actually implementing live in market, but we're the ones that are working with them on all of their plans, their strategies, whether that's, influencer marketing, social posting, brand campaigns, product across the board, truly. That's the way that we work with them. And we have agencies in each one of these markets that we're also working with to adapt all of our strategies. So our big thing is, act global, but think local. Yeah, right on. So I would imagine that, it's a wonderful synergy, right? Because you learn a lot and probably, the folks in the different markets learn a lot. So you can have opportunities. Do you get together to teach each other either online or wherever, or have a summit and what's going on and what works? For sure. We have many annual meetings with all of our partners where we all come together, and it's a great opportunity for us just to learn live from one another and what's happening. The listeners may or may not know. I think certainly those in Canada would know about Aldo and its Quebec roots, but we have listeners tuning in from around the world, and they might know the brand, but probably or may not know the scope and scale. And there's been lots of changes over the years. So let's bring us up to speed. Tell us about the scope and scale of the business. You've outlined a bit of the structure, but say more, how many stores, what's going on, and what's new. Bring us all up to speed. For sure. So we're actually celebrating our 50th year this year. which is really exciting. The company started in 1972. Our founder, Aldo, who we refer lovingly to as Mr. B, he still works actively within the company on a day-to-day basis. He's really involved with product and creative, super passionate about the business.
Yeah. And the industry, right? I mean, he funded the university, the retail school at McGill.
Yes, a huge passion project for him, and something he's really a big proponent on education, and he saw a gap. So he definitely wanted to kind of be able to continue that legacy. And, the youth of today to be able to kind of take that on and learn about the business. It's something he's still deeply passionate about. So we're very lucky to still have him around day to day. He's got a wealth of knowledge. He's honestly a fascinating human being.
Yeah. Okay.
So he actually set out something that really attracted me and always stands out to me about the company. He set out to create what he says is an ideal society. He said, I want to, create a business, but I want to make sure that there's really strong pillars. So he set out the pillars of love, respect, and integrity. And that can sound a tad fluffy, but truly, I can't even tell you how much this is woven into every fiber of the company, whether it's with respect to our product, our people, the planet, our Aldo crew community. It is just through and through. So it's really incredible, especially for a business as large as Aldo. We're still owned and operated, and 50 years in business as a privately owned organization.
Right on.
So to give you an idea in terms of size and scale, we currently operate over 1,200 stores in 110 countries. And we have some pretty aggressive growth plans for global expansion this year. So it's definitely a large scale business. Aside from expanding our brick and mortar business, e-com platforms throughout the globe, we've in recent years, especially put a massive emphasis on growing our online community. So, for example, in 2020, we were among the first retail brands to launch a hashtag challenge on TikTok. It made TikTok history at the time. We had over 5 billion views and 2 million entries, which was just incredible.
Yeah.
And this really comes from a desire. We are all customer obsessed. But with a recent added brand focus on consumer insights. So that's something we lean super heavily into. Our main mission is really just to be better and just to truly understand what sets us apart, why consumers should choose Aldo in their shopping journey, and how do we capture their attention.
Yeah, very important. Now, you also operate under a couple of banners, right? Call It Spring is your banner as well, right?
Yes, so that's our sister brand under Aldo Group, and we have Globo as well, which is just in Canada. Yeah.
Globo, yeah, and I think you now. I got some information that you guys were doing some product. You've got a bit of a wholesale division, right? You also make product for
a pretty big one actually. It's expanding. I mean, we've just signed some really exciting new brands. We produce product we sell in wholesale opportunities. So, with 50 years of footwear experience, we're truly and designing and crafting in-house, which most people don't know, has really allowed us to kind of become footwear experts. So we're super happy to be able to partner with various other brands and help bring that perspective to life through product.
Now, it's a pretty crowded category, footwear. What would you say makes the business remarkable? I mean, you've outlined a few of the things, the philosophy behind the business, the execution is always spot on. You've got in-house design, but as a consumer walking into one of your stores, they don't know that background. How do they experience that to say, I want to, this is the place I want to come for my fashion and my footwear? How would you think of that in terms of, when you're talking to someone about why Aldo is so great? There's a bunch of reasons why it's great to work there. But what would you say is the reason why you should be considered a remarkable retailer?
Yeah, I mean, that's a wonderful question. I think that really comes down to our customer obsession, like I was speaking about before. I think the beautiful thing about Aldo being around for 50 years is that we've continuously evolved with the customer. And especially in recent years, since the pandemic, things have been flipped on their head. People are not wanting the same things they once wanted. So really staying in tune with those consumer insights and having our eyes and ears on ground that way. Like, let them tell us. They're our boss at the end of the day. They have to tell us what it is that they want. So I think one of the biggest things in terms of product, especially, overwhelmingly, we've seen that, and this is across the globe, this isn't just in North America, that what our customer wants from us is style without sacrificing comfort. The days of wearing, heels at the club where your feet are like jammed up afterwards, those days are done. Nobody's willing to do that anymore, especially since the pandemic. Gen Z is not willing to do that, which is like good for them. So this is really what led us to the development and integration of our amazing pillow walk technology. This was something that was developed behind the scenes for years and years before we came to market with it to really perfect it. Yeah. We're still continuously learning, adapting. But I'm really excited to tease actually that we plan to launch an expansion of our pillow walk technology across a much wider array of our footwear categories in fall 23 and beyond. So this has really been kind of our secret sauce, something we're rallying behind, and we're seeing incredible feedback from customers across the globe.
Yeah, and we're here to talk. I guess our conversation was spurred by a particular campaign supporting that execution. I want to get to that in a minute, but I have one more question, kind of narrowing the lens about execution, because I know a lot of retailers. Some retailers may have the resources, Aldo does. Some they don't. Some they have more. But everybody's thinking about, when I'm with clients and they ask how much should I spend on influencer marketing and social, I'm like, I don't know what your budget is, but double it. Is always my kind of standard response.
Or quadruple, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Start it at double it. But then we get into deeper conversations about how the team is built. And so we talk about things like, do you have storytellers or performance marketers? Do you have, functional experts by channel, somebody who really knows Insta really well or YouTube Shorts? Or do you have it, horizontally? I'm an expert on social media. Or do you even get into expert on short form video versus storytelling? Like, how do you think about it, and share a bit of how you go about structuring size, of course, and resources. If you got 20 people, you can get a bit deeper, but how do you approach it?
So you'll actually be surprised to know within our team at the head office, and we're the ones that are really setting out kind of the strategy, bulk of the content or any extended content that's coming through. It's actually a team of 4 plus myself.
4.
Which might surprise you, but
you get a lot done when you work 24 hours a day, I guess.
We actually have a ton of additional support, which I'll get into, and how we structured it that makes the most sense for us. Being such a global business, we're constantly, there's always new channels and platforms and algorithms to learn about, but we're constantly learning. So my goal is really for everybody in the team to have that full sort of scope, even though there might be certain people that are managing kind of maybe more one channel than another. But it's just more about tiering and layers and how we're kind of operating in that sense. So with that, we work hand in hand with cross-functional teams across the Aldo brand. So whether it's paid media support, brand commercialization to help amplify even through the social media landscape or influencer landscape. So that's a big piece of the pie. But also we're super fortunate to be well supported by extended partners and agencies who serve as true extensions of our team. And that's so important to have those eyes and ears on ground. So for example, our external, North American PR agencies, Jane Gill PR and Azione.
Wonderful people, by the way, doing wonderful work.
They are, for sure. We're very lucky. We're very fortunate. So they've been incredible partners. We also work with MediaCom, our media agency, who help develop and run all of our paid media campaigns. So whether that's on social or to extended platforms. And also we work directly hand in hand with an agency in Los Angeles called Pepper. And they work with us on all things influencer and extended creative content. They're absolutely phenomenal. And then outside of that, with each one of our global franchise partners, they have their own local agencies. So whether that's a social media, PR, digital marketing. So we're, hopping on calls with them, but also relying on our partners to, facilitate and push out all of our plans across the globe. So we really are well supported, and that's the structure that we felt was best for us. We could have a team of 30 in-house. but, we'd all be operating from one place. We really love to have that perspective all over the world.
Oh, fantastic. Kind of a lot of force multipliers. Sounds great. Well, let's talk about this campaign. Let's get some numbers on the board. You did a TikTok campaign for Pillow Walk, and you had what were clearly some exceptional numbers. So tell us all about it.
For sure. So in terms of the numbers, we just recently kind of got all the stats back, just in terms of how it stacks up against benchmarks on the platform. So we're really excited. Our video completion rate, which, obviously shows that engagement and interest, was 785% above the benchmark on the platform, which was super exciting for us. Conversion rate was 35% above benchmark. Click-through rate, 68%, 55 million impressions. And then in terms of our conversions, we saw a 15% increase lift in behavioral visit rate. So coming out of the platform onto either within in-store or onto our website. And what was super, super exciting was a 355% above benchmark conversion rate on the platform.
Great.
So
when you say conversion rate, you mean conversion to sales?
Yes.
Fantastic. Now, how do you measure that? I get how you would measure that online. I got so many questions. How you would measure that online. Talk about how you would measure that when folks go and buy in the store. Speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so we work with our partners at TikTok. They also have agencies and partners that they're using to help monitor all of this. So it's really about a test group that they'll put forward following the campaign to say, hey, did you XYZ? Did you end up visiting in store based on this ad? Did you, what was your next step after viewing this content? And there's a number of studies and surveys that they'll kind of send out to this large test group. So it's called a brand lift study. And this is what is able to give us all this incredible data.
All right. So impressive metrics by any metric, I guess you could say, by any measure. I'm kind of curious, though. Take me, we're talking about one kind of campaign, one platform, but take us back to the genesis of the campaign. How do you determine what marketing tactics are going to be used from your perspective, your social media? Where does social media roll? What role does social media play? Are there agency involved? I think you've talked that you've got agency partners and the platforms themselves, and how do you set up goals and objectives? Just to unpack some of that stuff so we can all get our arms better around how to approach opportunities like the one that you just did amazing on.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, of course. So our goal with the global Aldo Pillow Walk campaign was really to boost awareness, but also to drive try-on for our new product launch. We really just wanted feet in shoes so that everybody could feel it for themselves. So we really implemented this strategy using brand-led assets to own the upper funnel objective. And that was really to drive awareness. So that's our hero campaign. And then the creator assets were really used to drive heightened engagement and conversions. So for the actual creative, we used a diverse combination throughout the platform. And this is really a strategy that one can use to embody a best practice. It's called scaling with creative. Okay, so this approach really allows brands to create a range of unique ads that can be tailored to different audiences with different marketing objectives throughout that funnel. So the hero campaign video was actually inspired, and this is probably one of the first times we've done this in such a heavy way. It was truly inspired from TikTok's key trends and transitions. So we really tapped into the use of like CGI effects, trending sounds, visual cues that have just been super performant for us on these platforms and with video content in the recent past. So we tapped into so many key learnings, content performance insights, knowing that even hero content really needs to be crafted in a way now that feels native to where consumers are ultimately spending the majority of their time consuming this.
Talk about how you chose, I guess it's a little self-evident, the answer to my question, how you chose TikTok. I mean, it's probably one of many vehicles you no doubt use, and its popularity is hard to deny in terms of the minutes watched and all those things. But the format, short form video format, works in multiple formats, multiple platforms. Was the big push on TikTok because of its popularity, or what was the thinking there?
So we've had a lot of success on the platform. I think what we love about it as well is really that like democratic virality that the platform allows for. Anybody can like make an amazing piece of content. They don't have to have a massive following, and it can blow up just because it's, super engaging. We also love how it's just a little bit more of that lo-fi, really relevant sort of approach to content. Where like the days of that super over glossy, over curated content, we're seeing that even shifting through other platforms as well, like Instagram, right? So that's something that really resonated to us. And as well, like Gen Z is a big target of ours. Obviously, Gen Z loves this platform as well as millennials as well. I myself spend far too much time on it, but it was really it wasn't even just about TikTok. It was really just about video content. We're seeing the video content, and because it is
short form, particularly short form video
short
content.
Form, like 10 seconds is kind of the sweet spot.
10 seconds. 10 seconds.
10 seconds is really the sweet spot. Yeah.
Did you think when you're starting out as a marketer, you'd have to communicate what you had to communicate in 10 seconds?
No, and it's definitely been a challenge, I can tell you, especially even for our hero campaign videos. I mean, they used to be, back in the day, they could be up to like a minute and a half. And now we've managed to get them down to 15-second and 30-second spots. Yeah. It's like, how do you communicate everything you need to communicate in such a short time? So that's where this creator content kind of comes in and cushions that message. So the way that we're kind of strategically placing how they're going to receive each piece of content, whether it's, starting with the hero and then following up with and retargeting with some of this creator content, that's really been how we've managed to like consistently kind of ensure that they're taken through that every level of the funnel and that it's engaging storytelling for viewers.
So interesting. Now behind every wildly successful campaign is a few that didn't go the way that they were planned. What learnings did you bring to this campaign that you say, here's 3 things that we thought would work that didn't, and any insight on that for us?
Yeah, I think, we've been testing and learning really for a number of years now on the platforms, and they continue to change and evolve. So we're really spend a lot of time in looking at like week by week, even what's performing, why. But it's also been great to have partners within the platforms themselves. So at TikTok, their client solution team is amazing at being like, okay, this type of content right now is it. So for example, breaking the fourth wall content where you have the creator speaking directly to their audience. That is huge right now. It seems to be across the board, no matter what the topic, one of the top performing pieces. So we knew that we had to kind of prioritize that. We also know that transitions, especially when you're trying to communicate a fashion message, is a great way for us to be able to show all the different styles that we have, but also tapping into sort of just the unique way. And like, that's a quick way too, to in 10 seconds, you were asking, how do you show, a ton of different styles and breadth in your collection in 10 seconds? Well, transitions are a great way to do that. So these learnings have kind of come along just with us looking at what's performed well for us, but also relying on our partners to kind of give us the
best practices
the best practices and just kind of what's trending at the moment.
Well, listen, let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room. Not every social media platform, but many have their day in the negative sun. TikTok being no different, in other words. So TikTok's had some controversy around it and continues to. I mean, if you work for the government, you can't watch TikTok. So I don't want to dwell on that part of it, but I want to get inside your thinking around when these things happen on the platforms. Do you start to think differently about how you use different platforms when, people aren't talking so favorably about your chosen media?
Yeah, I mean, that's a wonderful question, and obviously one that many of us kind of scratch our heads on. I'd say, listen, this isn't the first time we've seen this. Right. First and foremost, we want to be in step with our customer, engaging with them in the way that they most appreciate. It's really about having the right content on the right platforms. So we know that the online world can be fickle. Changes are constant, even massive ones, as it pertains to platform usage, relevant content types, algorithms, above and beyond these issues that you're speaking about. Sure, that's a good point. So at the end of the day, what we've learned is it's imperative to keep our finger on the pulse and remain super agile. You have to develop a diverse platform portfolio of where your customers want to see you. So we're not just putting all of our eggs in one basket. And this allows us to just better shift strategies and adapt to any changes in the landscape. At the time that we had launched the last Pillow Walk campaign, that was, there were some questions of a ban in the US. Mm-hmm. And this is as we were like getting ready and gearing up. And if we had to, we were going to shift to another platform in terms of our social strategy. We still had incredible content, and we were still working with creators that are truly hybrid between the platforms. It's just about like clicking, making sure that you're on top of the news, understanding what's going on, and really paying attention to what is the consumer saying and where do they want to be.
Let's last couple of questions. 3 key lessons for the retailers listening. Your whole this whole interview has actually been a masterclass, so it's a little bit of a cheat to kind of boil it down to 3 key lessons. But how do you craft a successful influencer campaign using the media you did? What are the 3 key things you've just got to get right?
Only 3?
Yeah, I know. It's a bit of a cheat, right? But it could be a dozen. But if you don't get these 3 right, it doesn't matter how many of the other ones you get right. I mean, I don't know.
Well, man, narrowing down to 3. Okay, well, I'd say, first and foremost, you have to determine the objective of the campaign. Is it awareness? Is it conversion? Is it consideration? Where are you hitting the most? And it can be a bit of a fringe, right? Mm-hmm. Like it can be awareness, but you also want to drive trial. But you have to understand how you're selecting your media, and that's also going to inform who you're selecting and the content strategy behind it, right? Obviously you have to determine the regionality, the brand fit, brand value alignment in selecting the talent that you're going to be working with. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We always say this, we don't work with jerks.
Right.
There's so many incredible creators out there that we have incredible relationships with. So, and then we're continuing to forge those relationships with new and emerging talent. So that's super important. So that tiering really comes from, determining one is what's your objective, mm-hmm. who are you working with? And then I would say the content briefs are so important. Especially when it's specific to like a product campaign message, you have to brief in the talent, but you also have to allow creators to do their thing. And you're selecting them based on the content that they're producing. And I'd say the number one thing you want to do is look at what's been their top performing content. Use that as part of their brief. So that it's really true to them and their audience is going to appreciate it that much more because it feels that much more authentic. So, for example, if most of their content is get ready with me's, well, that's what you're going to tap into. Somebody else might be a bit more humor based, but you really have to hand select who you're working with based on what is performant for them as well.
I guess that's the nuance of a light touch, an informed light touch. I don't know how better to put it, right? In other words, you're choosing them for a reason. You're not there to craft what they do. You want them to just talk about what you're talking about in their way, right? That's what is going to most resonate with your audience. A quick follow-up question. And I talk to this to a lot of brands who, the big influencers, hey, they come along with a big bill, right? So micro-influencers, are you down with micro-influencers? Like at some point it becomes hard to manage, I guess, like too many. But at what does scale look like? What's your advice around scale?
That's an amazing question. I love this question, actually. So I think at all tiers of the pyramid, let's say if we want to chop it up into 3, you have your celebrity level talent, mm-hmm. you've got your kind of mid tier, and then you've got your more micro. At every tier, there's a benefit in working with talent. And again, this comes down to your objective. If it's mostly awareness, you're going to go a little heavier tier and maybe you'll have less talent to work with. And it really depends on your budgets as well. If you don't have budgets for those top tier influencers, that's okay. You can work with somebody that's kind of more in that mid macro or lower tier who are going to generate incredible content. And then you're just boosting it so that you're still getting that reach and that amplification. But
let's say you've got $1 in your budget and your choice is spend that entire dollar with one big, powerful influencer that's, fits with your brand versus a lot of influencers, all of which you choose because they're good. What choice it's a bit of an artificial choice, but what would be your thinking on that?
That's a good question. I would say more than anything for us, it's about who's performed for us in the past. And we've seen that performance and virality, especially on platforms like TikTok, like we were saying, that democratic virality. It's like sometimes we can work with somebody who's only got a few thousand followers, but they produce something that just resonated so well with the customer base So it's really, I would say, more about past performance if you only have that $1. Typically what we'll try to do is always, bring in some talent that we've worked with in the past and then infuse some new blood and try to see what that mix is and kind of keep data on, who performed in what way. Some are going to drive more of a conversion messaging. Some of them drive more of just a great storytelling and brand resonance. So it really depends on that objective. And I know that's a bit of a vague answer. You wanted something very specific. If I had to say, I'd probably say like that mid-level is you're going to kind of strike a bit of the balance of the two. Okay. But obviously it's great to have some of those heavy hitters that are just like, they have such a clout and such an impact with their audience where they have a bit of a cult following where their followers are going to follow them wherever they go. Right. So there's something really incredible about that as well.
Yeah. It's also a bit of an artificial construct. So it's fair for you to kind of pick the middle. All right. So if people want to get in touch, you a LinkedIn person, if they want to follow and learn more about your campaigns, what's the best way to get in touch?
I am definitely on LinkedIn, but for Aldo, a little shameless plug. The easiest way to follow along.
Drop some links.
Yeah, is Aldo_shoes on all social media platforms. Give us a follow. Come see what we're doing. We've got some really cool stuff coming up this summer and this fall as well. So stay tuned. We've got some exciting stuff coming up.
Well, Amanda, thanks so much for joining me on the Voice of Retail podcast. It's been a real treat to hear your firsthand experience, and I think a lot of retail marketers appreciate your insights and wisdom and willing to share with us on the pod. And I wish you continued success, and I look forward to future campaigns. And I'll put all the links in the show notes so folks can follow along and watch the best practices unfold from you and the team. So once again, thanks for being on the pod.
Thank you so much. This was a blast. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of The Voice of Retail. If you haven't already, be sure and follow on your favorite podcast platform so new episodes will land automatically each week. And be sure to check out my other retail industry media properties, Remarkable Retail Podcast with Steve Dennis, and the Global E-commerce Leaders Podcast. Last but not least, if you're into barbecue, check out my YouTube barbecue show, Last Request Barbecue, with new episodes each and every week. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, Consumer Growth Consultant, President of M.E. LeBlanc Company Inc, Maven Media, and keynote speaker. If you're looking for more content or want to chat, follow me on LinkedIn or visit my website at meleblanc.co. Safe travels, everyone.